And now we will continue our forum with the keynote, insight, perspectives, and challenges of mechanical engineering in Latvia. On the topic, we want to welcome Chairman of the Management Board at Association and Mechanical Engineering and Metalworking Industries of Latvia, Mr. Toms Greenfelds. We welcome you. Yes, we can see you. We can hear you. Please.
Oh, excellent. Hello, everybody, participants and listeners and panelists. I'm really glad that we managed to make this event, at least virtually. Of course, we miss the real face-to-face meetings we had in the first two forums we had in Jelgava and Liepāja. But thanks, Leah, Anders Alksnis and his team for doing great job to make this happen. Okay, I'll try to share my presentation. Can you see?
Yes, we can see it. Thank you. It's full screen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, 15 minutes time. I'll try to be short and precise. Of course, it's not possible to go in very deep detail, but a few words how our industry is feeling at these not so easy times. Firstly, just a few words who we are. We are, to say it simple, organization that brings together leading companies and related organizations that are active in this particular sector, meaning metalworking and engineering industry. And we are here more than 25 years. Today we have some 170 members in our network, and what we do, actually we bring together these players, these companies, facilitate cooperation, networking, and try to implement projects that are of interest to our companies and help them to be more productive and competitive. For example, key areas, all things related to human resources, education, R&D, innovation, also marketing, export promotion, and of course, during recent years, more and more, all digital transformation things also. How can we help people and organizations outside our network? We are the ones where you can get information and contacts if you are looking for some kind of cooperation with our sector, with our companies. So anybody interested in developing cooperation are welcome to approach us. What's our industry and what are our members? Here is just a picture according to official statistics, official NACE codes. In the upper left corner, there is in percentage how our industry is split among these official NACE codes, but of course statistics is quite a tricky thing and not always shows a real life, because companies are working in different fields and then cover several segments shown here. Another way how we can show our industry and also what we are representing is basically here you can see main areas, main specialties our companies are focusing and working in. Of course, a lot of companies in our network and in our industry in general, they are supplying parts and components and working as subcontractors. That's quite a big share of our companies. And then, of course, there are a lot of companies that develop and work on their own products, their own solutions for actually all other industries, all other sectors we can imagine. So in real life, all these things are interlinked because many companies specialize in some kind of production of some sort of equipment or solutions, and on the other hand, they also offer some metalworking or other kind of services just to make sure these production facilities are fully utilized and then effective. Of course, this is our main target audience and companies we are representing and trying to help. But besides those ones, it's quite important that we have in our ecosystem also service providers and organizations that are very important to help these manufacturing companies be competitive and develop. It's all kind of services like testing, certification, engineering, and recently more and more IT companies are coming in our network, and of course it's quite normal thing, as you could hear in a recent panel discussion. The things are merging. Engineering and IT, they are merging, and new solutions are developed. And of course, knowledge providers. We have most of vocational education and higher education and private training institutions in our network, because qualified specialists, it's the main challenge for at least 10 years. And of course, you cannot work without suppliers supplying metal, other materials, and supplying up-to-date and modern equipment. That's all important. So that's what we are bringing together and representing. Now, some figures about our sector, our industry, how it's performing this year and in recent past. On the left side, it's a little bit of history. Here you can see how the things have developed so far. I will not go very much in deep history, but just to say that starting from year 2016, actually the development was quite rapid, quite successful, and it was so up till March of this year. And then on the right side, you can see some figures about main subsectors and our industry in total. And yeah, we have data for first 9 months of this year, and I have to say, the situation is not so bad as one could expect, let's say in spring. It's more or less, in total figures, it's more or less like it was the last year. So of course, the situation is different in different companies, in different subsectors, but in general, so far it's okay, and the industry is performing in I would say in normal levels. And our forecast for this year is, it should be more or less like in last year. Maybe the last 3 months will bring some slight changes, but I don't think we will have increase or drop more than 1%. So it should be something like this. And main markets, no big changes here. Like it was already said, most of production, about 80%, goes to some export markets, and mostly it's the European Union. And country-wise, of course, it's our closest partners in Nordic countries, in Scandinavia. Of course, Germany is one of the biggest and main players in this industry, and then it goes so on. And as you can see, other countries, 22%. There are quite many different markets actually around the globe. Employment also, we have figures for first half of the year. It shows that it has been decreased for some 2% in second quarter, but I wouldn't make some very deep concerns about this, because I think in medium and long term the situation will not change, and demand for skilled specialists will not disappear. It will be here for sure. Maybe because this year is quite complicated and not so easy, little bit more in detail about what has happened this year. We can clearly actually divide this in three parts, 3 quarters. The first one, actually, in the beginning of this year, the situation was quite optimistic. It was according to our surveys. Most of companies predicted that the growth will continue, and that statistics also show that first quarter was quite good, and then the growth actually we had for last 4 years continued. Then came March. Of course, it was quite a big shock for everybody, not only our sector, but generally it was quite a big mess. Nobody could understand how the things will develop. Of course, the hardest situation was for those companies that are suppliers for automotive, because the big automotive producers were closed in March, April. Some production resumed only in May. So also these suppliers were those who felt it most badly. Also other companies, it was very mixed picture. Some continued to operate normally, some were partly closed, and also figures show that we had about 10% drop in exports, and then some 8% drop in production. But the good thing is that more or less in June, the things came back to normal life, I would say. And then actually starting from that point, we are producing and exporting more or less at the levels we had the year before. Of course, some major uncertainties remain. It still is difficult for companies that are exporting some equipment to distant markets, because it's still problems to send people to do some assembly works, to do things on site in these distant markets. But in general, I would say up to September, it's doing pretty well. In March, we had lot worse expectations. Yeah, and then about EU, here we have actually some figures, some comments from Orgolin, European Association of Technological Industries, where we are members also. Yes, it's quite a thing. We are also worried about that. Actually, the situation in the European Union is not so good, and then the predictions and forecasts that economists from Orgolin have announced is also that at least next year we cannot expect a very fast recovery. The soonest we can expect it's the year after. So of course, EU, it's the biggest market for our companies, so we are worried also about what's happening in this our main and biggest market. But on the other hand, many people in EU and also our companies can say the same things, that all this COVID stuff has introduced a trend which is called de-globalization, and brings some nearshoring trends back to reality, so that many companies that are actually used to have very wide and far-reaching supply chains, they are bringing production closer, because safety of supply, it's sometimes more important than just pure price. So in this respect, we see that our companies can also get some additional share in respect to this global trend which is happening. Like I said, it's a very difficult year. Situation is quite different in many companies. We have actually quite a lot of companies that are doing pretty well, and in my last minutes of time I have today, just a brief examples of some investments that have happened this year, and then some good things. If we are speaking about investment, then again, it's I think Liepāja, our port city in the western part of Latvia, they are one of the most active places if we are speaking about investment. Traditionally, for many years, it was a city known for a big metallurgical plant, Liepājas Metallurgs, which has been closed down for several years already. And actually, this closure caused big problems to the city itself, because a lot of city was very much dependent on this big plant. But it's nice to see that many companies are investing, and this example we have here on the screen, Kaljan, they actually bought one part of Liepājas Metallurgs facilities, and a few weeks ago, it was officially opened, this new production plant, and about 10 million euros have been invested in this. So it's a good start to further develop the activities of this company, which is producing telescopic conveyors for logistics and such industries. One of the biggest players in our industry, RER, which is producing electrical equipment for trains and other applications. It has been not so easy times for this company, and some points of crisis, but it's really nice to see that company is developing strongly. And also this year, they have made quite big investment in modernization, in modern equipment, in R&D equipment, and despite this crisis and general trends, they are also expecting to have the turnover and profit increase. So this is definitely a good example to mention. And also some smaller companies, they are doing pretty good investments in modernization. Here we have two examples of companies, Metalmeisters and Exigum, which are focusing on precise machining and production of complex parts. Metalmeisters have invested in a good and very modern equipment that's quite unique in Latvia and even Baltics. Exigum, it's a new company, and actually they are having a very good start this year. Quite a lot of money in modern and very advanced manufacturing technologies. And some companies that have also started quite big investment plans that will be implemented next year. It's Preco, one of the biggest players in agriculture machinery production. They will invest in automated production lines, and MEA Metals, also one of the fastest growing companies in our sector. It's nice to see that they are also expanding and continuing to invest in new production facilities and then also new equipment. And if we are speaking about some interesting projects, I'd like to mention just maybe one example which has developed last year. It's Patria, the big Finnish defense and military company, which has actually during this year done a quite significant work in developing suppliers network in Latvia, also in cooperation with MASOK and other institutions. For example, the first meetings were just 1 year ago in tech industry in Riga, where we exchanged information and understood that there is no cooperation up to now, but since that, step by step, suppliers network has been developed. Several companies, some companies have already signed contracts, and several are under negotiation. So we expect full-scale production of such vehicles you can see on this picture beginning in next year in March.
Thank you.
And quite a lot of our companies are involved. Yeah, I understand my time has ended, but
yes.
Actually, yes, that's
about it.
Situation.
Thank you very much, Toms Greenfeldt. Thank you for your presentation.